Hi, welcome. Jamie McIntyre here, CEO of 21st Century Education and founder of the 21st Century Australia Party. I'm really excited to finally announce our 21st Century Australia policy document. I know many people have been waiting for this to hear about what our party stands for in detail, and here we have it. This will be released later to the media today and out to our members and supporter database early next week. It'll be available to download from 21stcenturyaustralia.com.au. As you can see, it's a comprehensive policy document. There's 24 priority policies in this document. In particular, there will be other policy initiatives that will be released closer to the election date in September. But it gives a broad base for our followers and others that are interested in seeing what 21st Century Australia has to offer as a third-party legitimate force in the upcoming elections. We're also proud to announce in a week's time the launch of 21st Century Australia political magazine. This will be a magazine that will be made available in newsagents as well, but also it will be for our 21st Century Party members as well, and we'll have many independent political articles in this. That's just some of the initiatives that were created at 21st Century Australia. The goal with 21st Century Australia, if you're not familiar with it, is to deliver a more abundant, prosperous 21st century economy for all Australians to fairly share in the massive wealth that this large nation of Australia can provide. Our two main focuses are, for the last 15 years, I've been lobbying and as an educator, looking at how do we transform our 19th century outdated education system that was designed in the industrialisation era and bring it into the 21st century with a modern day education based on practical real life results and taught by those with a PhD in results as opposed to just theory. And that's a big agenda of 21st Century Australia will stand for. If we want a more prosperous country in Australia, then what we need to do is really revolutionise our education system. Education, the right education, leads to future prosperity, and that's critical. The other thing that's holding Australia back is we have an outdated 19th century political system. It was designed over 200 years ago, and it's simply outdated. We're now in the 21st century. We need to urgently update our political system because we have a system now that does not serve the democratic interests of our voters. We have many disillusioned voters that are not happy with the lack of choice, and we have a democratic system that's effectively been hijacked by minority interests. This current government that's in power is effectively manipulated and controlled by the corrupt union factions in this country, and that's an example of how the democratic system has been hijacked by those interests. We need a democratic system that taps into technology. We believe that voters, for instance, should be able to vote directly on major policy. There is software available today for many companies in the US that can prevent fraudulent voting, so we can vote online and utilize this technology to update and improve our 21st century political system. For those who don't know about myself, I'm a best-selling author. I've wrote over a dozen books now. One of my first books I wrote over a decade ago was What I Didn't Learn at School But Wish I Had, which became a bestseller in Australia and has been distributed over 500,000 people around the globe now and expanding. The book I wrote also last year, it's 101 Ways to Improve Australia. It's a 320-page document effectively, which is where these 24 policies come from a collection of the policy initiatives that we have suggested for some time for an improvement in this country. I'm a founder of over a dozen companies, so I think people ask the question, how can I take my business success and correlate that into politics? My belief is this: is that the challenge in our political system and why it's failing and creating many disillusioned voters is that out of 226 MPs in this country, there's only 13 of them that have entrepreneurial experience or board level, executive level management experience in this country, which effectively means the majority of our politicians, particularly in the current government, are predominantly party or union officials, and in the coalition are predominantly lawyers or party officials. The sheer lack of talent of people that produce real life results that are in politics in this country is a very concerning element, and that's one of the reasons we have a current government that is hopelessly out of control with over $250 billion in debt run up in the last 6 or 7 years. They can't budget, effectively run a surplus budget despite coming off one of the largest commodities booms in the history of the planet, and they have no idea about fiscal management because these people have no real life experience outside of politics to deliver results. So how do we expect them to deliver results when they're inside politics? I think the time has come where Australian voters are fed up with the lack of political talent in this country and want to see people that have measured results in their real life and the business community that can actually produce results when they come to politics. So I see that only as a strength, attracting more people that have produced results outside of politics into the Australian political system. We want to build a strong Australia, and the way to do that is going to be through a lot of common sense, intelligent, strategic solutions that we've come up with. These are some of the particular concerns that we've highlighted that Australians face. We certainly, as voters, we're not happy about the amount of waste, the increase in debt that we've talked about, $250 billion, running up at almost $3 billion a week, this current government. It's out of control. And then, of course, they invent new taxes to fill the budget black holes, which is just damaging our financial future even more. Australians are concerned about, obviously, increasing pressures on on cost of living rises, electricity and gas prices. Australians have concerns about the increased burdens on business that this current government is imposing, and they simply don't understand the needs of small business. You can't have a successful economy without having a government that is proactive and focused on helping the small to medium-sized companies in this country. Increasing the profits of small to medium-sized businesses leads to increased job creation and leads to increased sustained pay rises for workers. A true party that will represent the workers of this country has to also represent small to medium business. They are aligned. You can't have a party that claims to represent workers that attacks business, because it's not government that creates jobs. Businesses are the ones that create jobs, pay the taxes for the government to fund jobs, etc., that might be in the government sector. It all starts with the entrepreneur. We must have a political party that supports small to medium businesses and creates the environment for businesses to profit, because out of profit comes jobs, and out of profit comes increased sustainable pay rises. A party that is opposing business, is anti-entrepreneur, is damaging long-term to the economy, and is also not acting in the interest of Australian workers. 21st century Australia represents Australian workers and represents small to medium business. Together, they must work together and create a prosperous future. That is common sense, and anyone else that tries to tell you any different is clearly not speaking the truth, and it's clearly into creating class warfare, envy of those who are doing well in this country, to try and desperately get votes to support them. And that is not honest, and that's not true the way that people should run the country, and that's what's holding this country back. Let's speak the truth. The truth is we need to have a prosperous future for workers and business. We need to have a supportive business environment to create jobs and increase sustained pay rises. Australians are also concerned about the lack of infrastructure that we have. If you go to China, China builds their infrastructure in advance before they need it. In Australia, we're so hopelessly behind. We need to be building and thinking foresight, not hindsight, and investing in our infrastructure ahead of time. Any smart government would be looking at projects to do that. Australians have concerns about the future taxes that we'll have to pay by the increased debt. Australian voters know that the current government running up debts leads to higher taxes in the future. That's just common sense. We need to reverse that. Australians have concern about the unemployment and job security, slow economy that we're facing now, because this current government has severely damaged investment in the mining industry, particularly in this country. We're now seeing the effects of that, and that's going to be very damaging in the near to medium term future, which we need to try and address. Australians have concerns about the obviously increasing number of illegal boat immigrants arriving to Australia, and the massive billions of dollars this is costing. This has blown out of proportion completely since the current government's come into power, and we have innovative solutions to help address these issues as well. Australian business owners have concerns about the increasing level of regulation. It just stifles and slows down business, red tape. It costs a lot to the economy. We have to fix that. Australian business owners have concerns about the increased union militancy in this country. That once again stifles business, that leads to job losses and